Welcome to Farm Charm Chic. I'm Emily. Today's episode is a part 2 continuation of a thrift flip challenge that I did in my last video. I took you guys along shopping with me at my local thrift store. I had $15 and 30 minutes to see how much bang for my buck I could actually get. So if you have not yet watched part 1, I highly recommend stopping this video, watching that, getting all caught up, and then coming back for more. I'll leave a link to my video so you can easily find it. If you wanted to stay here and watch this one first, that's fine too. But when this one's over, I do recommend going back, checking that out, seeing all of the fun items that I flipped in that video. It's a lot of fun. I love doing thrift flips and you guys love the video too, so I'm excited to bring you part 2. So with all that being said, let's go do some thrift flips. I always love checking out where they keep the frames at my thrift store. I love finding good sturdy frames, and this one was so nice and sturdy and just this nice thick wood. So I'm just spraying it down with water to clean it. Now sometimes the frames that you find at your thrift stores or antique stores, it might have like decades of grime on them. So sometimes you have to get a little creative with the type of solution you use to get them off, but some water did the trick with this one. Now I'm just going to use my putty knife to bend these staples back that are holding this print in place, and I'm going to remove the cardboard. I'm going to hang on to this because we're going to use that for what I put in here. So I'm just going to take out the glass and the print, and you can see here along the top the original color of this print. So it's very faded on here, and I'm looking for a date, and I do find one down in the corner for, I think it says 1998 on there, somewhere in the 90s, but it looks very 90s to me. So definitely a little bit aged, but a little past its time, but we're going to freshen this frame up and use this, and hopefully it will work in my home for a little while. So I decided to paint this with some black chalk paint. The color on here was already a really dark green, kind of that forest green that everybody used, I feel like, back in the 90s. And so I'm just going to freshen that up with some black paint there. And then that's just going to help pop with what I have planned here. So I'm taking a couple of these faux tin tiles from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use 2 of them. I love using these in my crafting because you can make them look like real tin. They're so easy to cut through because it's a very thin plastic, and they are kind of adhesive on the back. The one thing you want to note is that the adhesive back is only attached through the edges though, and that's to kind of help keep the structure of it looking like tin. And so when you cut these, a lot of times if you cut the edges off, the adhesive part falls off. So you'll have to use some glue. And I'll show you a little bit more about kind of what I mean with that. So I have these 2 placed together, and I'm setting my cardboard down, but I'm only going to push down on one of them so I can turn it over and I can use my visual, like, look at it straight on before I stick that other tile there. So I just make sure to push that tile down, and then I'm going to, but that was just kind of my way of getting it centered as best as I could. And so now I'm going to kind of lift this one up to place this tile under here, and it goes on seamless. Like, you can't tell unless you look really closely that there's 2 different tiles. But even if you were using actual tin tiles, there would be a separation there. So I feel like it looks great. I'm just placing these down. So now when I flip these over, see, I think this looks so good. I just love how these look together. But when I flip this over, I'm going to trim the rest of the edges. It's very easy to do. Like I said, it's a thin plastic, so you're able to do this with your scissors very nicely. A lot of the edges are going to be, or all of the edges actually, are going to be covered up by that frame, so don't worry about being too exact. But you can see now that since I've trimmed the edges off, only that one edge is still stuck to that adhesive backing. So I'm just going to put some hot glue on here. Now, this first one, I do it kind of, I don't use my brayer right away. I use my hand, and you can kind of see some ripples from the glue in there. It's totally fine. In the end, you cannot see those, but it just, fair warning, take my advice here. I get my brayer out to kind of smooth those out here, and then I decide when I do this to the next tile, I start with the brayer, and it makes all the difference. So I think my glue was a little too cool at this point for it to spread out, and so I don't get the it doesn't look as great right there because you can kind of see those. But like I said, in the end, you can't even tell, but start out doing the way I do on this tile here. So I'm just going back and forth with my glue here to make sure that's going to push that down. And then when I place my tile back down, I immediately start with my brayer, and that flattens out that glue because it's warm enough that it's going to not have any texture. It's going to smooth that out very nicely. So you can kind of see the difference between the two. Again, in the end, it's fine, but I would just start out with doing that way. So now I want this to look like really old tin that's been painted and maybe had some patina aging. I'm just thinking that maybe you were cleaning out someone's old attic and found some ceiling tiles that they had used for something, and then maybe the tops of them had been kind of brushed off and that metal exposed and then gotten wet and patinaed. That's kind of what I'm going for. I hope that you can kind of see where I'm trying, what I'm trying to achieve here. So I have this patina set that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. I have seen these also at JoAnns and Michael's. There's lots of different types of patina-ing kits that you can get out there. I buy this one when they're on sale. It's like $20 originally, but buy it when it's like 40 or 50% off. So you have 3 steps, and the one I'm doing right now is putting the primer on. And I really just want this to hit those high points of that faux tin. Because I want it to look like this had been painted and then maybe some things sat up against it for years or rubbed against it to expose the tin. And now the second step is you go over with just your paint. And this is kind of that coppery color you can see is a lot shinier than the primer. And all of these are going to have a reaction with the patina spray that we'll put on here. So I'm just trying to go as best I can over where I did the primer. Some of it may be on the primer, some of it may not, but it all works out. And I'm just shaking up that primer spray, and then I'm putting this all over it. Now this is a primer that goes to kind of that greenish, bluish color. You can get all sorts of different finishes on the patina that you do. So this is just the one that I like, and you can kind of see how it started to get that greenish tint to it. I really love how this turns out. I just think it's so fun. And I'm going to place this back in the frame now. And I just love having these pieces. I've done one of these before where I just did it straight paint on it. And it looks really pretty. I put a wreath over it, but I thought this one would be really fun to try that patina on there. So I just placed this back into the frame and bent all of those staples down. And then you can see here how it looks with the frame there. And you can kind of get an up close look here of how that coppery color has that natural green tone that patina. Just imagine this like displayed on a mantle or used as a layering piece. I think it looks so fun. You definitely could put a wreath in front of it. You could even do this type of texture, turn this into like a riser or a tray of some sort. But I just think as a layering piece, I decided here to display it sitting up like this. But even if whatever direction you place it, I just think this would look so beautiful, just stacked and layered, and such a staple piece. What do you guys think of this one? I was so excited when I saw this piece in the thrift store. It was missing one of its little like hanging knobs there. It was $1.50, I believe, is what I paid on this piece. And it, clearly it's meant to be hung on the wall for you to hang something from, like your aprons or something. I don't know, whatever you use, some cute little decor or something. But it was missing a couple of one of the little knobs on it. So I'm just going to remove the others, and I'm going to turn this into a riser. You guys know I love my risers. They're so fun. They're such a great way to bring some different textures into your decorating, and I feel like they're pieces that can be used over and over again. I recently did a bridal shower for my niece, and I took all of my risers, and we had the most beautiful display of food for the table on all these different heights and different things. It was so pretty. So they really do come in handy, and I just love having a lot of them. So it takes just a minute for me to get all of the hardware removed from this. I even removed the pieces where you would hang this because we don't need them there anymore. And I'm going to end up spray painting this so I can get into all those little grooves. Hand painting this I think would be kind of a nightmare, so I didn't want to even go down that road. I'm just taking a little spackling. My spackling is kind of dry. I think I need to get a new tub of it because it was a little bit, but it worked, but it's definitely on its last leg here. But I'm just kind of pushing that down through that opening where the knobs were screwed in. And then I will just let this dry, and then I will go back in and sand it so it's flat. And that's just going to camouflage that hole that was in there from where those little hanging fixtures were. To turn this into a riser, I'm using some little teeny finials. I purchased these on Amazon. I will leave a link to them in my description box. But if you want to make it really easy on yourself, even just some little wood beads, if you have some even from Dollar Tree or something, would work perfect for this. So we're going to paint over them so it could even be like the colored beads from Dollar Tree. But I do love these little finials. I buy them in a pack of like 25 or 50 of them. So I have quite a few, and they just kind of have a little bit of a different shape than a wooden bead, and so it kind of adds just a little bit more embellishment on it than just a plain wooden bead. But again, nobody's going to be turning this over and looking at the back side of it, so you're probably fine to just do what you have. I love this coastal sage color. This is such a beautiful color of spray paint. I couldn't leave this natural because we had to remove that hardware, and so I had to fix with the spackling. So I did need to choose a color, but I think this is going to match my decor so wonderfully, and I think this is a very kind of a neutral color almost in the decor styles that you're seeing today. But look at how pretty this is and how beautiful. I really think this is going to be such a fun riser to have with all of those cutouts and everything. And you can go as simple as you want or as elaborate as you want, even to put like a couple candles on here or have this in your bathroom with some beautiful perfume bottles or something. I just think this is so pretty. All right, I used the flowers from this pot in a earlier thrift flip, so I'm using the pot now, and it has this horrid styrofoam in it. It is that kind that breaks apart, and it's very staticky, sticks to everything, lots of little styrofoam balls everywhere. And I want to show you that as I was pulling this out, I noticed it had like some wires in there. So whenever you're doing anything like this, just be very careful. You never know what you're going to find, and you definitely don't want to cut yourself on anything. You can see off to the left, there was actually 2 of those in there. Now this styrofoam went to the very bottom of this pot. I just didn't want it around my home. I wanted to contain it, get rid of it, and let's move on from it because I hate this stuff so bad. So I just scraped down the edges here just to get everything removed from the pot. And you can kind of see it's just stuck to my hands everywhere. Now, in case you didn't know, if you are to mist this with like a little mister bottle, you can put your hands like over the trash and spray your hands down. It reduces the static electricity, and it makes it much easier to kind of work with when you're cleaning it up. So keep that in mind. Now you can kind of see here that I'm painting this white, but you can see the difference between the tone. That original tone is kind of a yellowish greenish undertones to it. I don't love the color, but I really just want to try a different technique. So on the second coat of paint, I go up and down with a sponge tool. I just want to reduce the brush mark so it has kind of an organic, natural look. Now I went out to my flower bed and I grabbed some dirt and I sprayed it with my mister bottle to kind of get the consistency of mud. And I'm going to rub this all over the pot. I've seen this on Pinterest, techniques where people do this to kind of get that earthy, dirty look to like the plaster pots like this. So I wanted to give it a try, and this is the perfect project since it's a thrift flip. If it goes wrong, then I can just toss it and move on. But I really just thought it would be fun. So I'm just rubbing this all over, just smearing it, rubbing it in so it gets into all of the little nooks and crannies of that plaster. And I even go all over the inside of the pot as well, just making sure that everywhere is covered and that was pressed in really good. I even took my Cricut scraping tool. You could use just like a leftover gift card or something to do this. You could probably even skip this step. The mud was just so caked on here that I wanted to scrape the majority of it off, and I thought this would push it into all of those little crevices a little bit better as well. So I'm spraying it down with my mister bottle here to kind of get the excess off. I just want to wipe this down now and clean this off. Now I go through this whole process and I realize there is an easier way, but I wanted to leave this in here because if you can't get outside to use like your garden hose and you're doing this like on a table or your sink and you don't want a bunch of mud going down your sink, obviously, I just left this in to show you that you can do this with a mister or a squirt bottle, and it works just fine. You can get all of that excess dirt off of there. So this is when I realized that I'm like, I've got to spray this out. So I take it outside and I sprayed it. I sprayed the entire pot down, and it left a good amount of the dirt on there. All of those little crevices kept that dirt. So to get it a little bit more, because it did kind of get it a little bit more clean than I wanted, I'm just taking one of the dirty rags that I have here and just kind of in a stamping motion, like a texture stamp, I'm just going up and down to add a little bit more of that dirt to it. Obviously, if you're doing this process, you like the look of dirt, so you probably would want to do this to kind of keep that real organic look. But I go around the lip of the pot, inside of the pot, everywhere. I wanted this to look like, since it's this plaster, like maybe had just been found out in like a French country barn somewhere that would used back when somebody was growing their seeds or something like that. Just a real organic look to it. And once all of that's dry, the dirt and the mud and everything, I go over it with some Mod Podge. This is just going to seal everything. So if you leave it outside, which if you do leave it outside, use a waterproof Mod Podge, because if the rain and everything gets on it, you don't want Mod Podge running all over, but you want to protect that aged look that we just gave it. But look at how beautiful this looks. I mean, I think this turned out perfect. And this is something that you really could use and style all year long. I mean, imagine at Christmas time with a really pretty evergreen in there. I just think this turned out so beautiful, and it's a great staple piece. And I mean, I think I paid $3. I used for this at the thrift store. I used the flowers in another project, and then with some paint and some mud. I think it looks great. I was very excited. This technique was a lot of fun, a little bit dirty. It took me a few minutes to realize I probably needed gloves on, so start with the gloves. But really, all in all, I just think this turned out beautiful, and I'm very excited to use this. And if you have access to a lot of these pots, I think this would be a great piece to make and sell, because this is the look that a lot of people are going for. This is one of those pieces that I had a bunch of different ideas for, and I'll kind of go through the process of how I ended up with what I do with this. So it's kind of just like an apple basket or a bushel basket, but when I got looking at it, you can see on the underneath of that lid, it has the name Dale on it. And when I actually turn it upside down, it has a for Dale. So clearly this basket belongs to Dale. Wherever you are, Dale, I'm sorry. I found your basket at a thrift store. So hopefully I do something with it that you actually like. So I started sanding off the name because I didn't know how to get it off there. I originally was going to paint this basket, but the more and more I kept thinking about it, and literally one night didn't get to sleep for hours because I kept thinking about this basket obviously was special enough that somebody was like leaving it for someone else when they passed away or something, or making sure that Dale got this basket. And so I started kind of looking online to see if this was actually like an antique or a piece of history. I didn't want to cover it up with a bunch of paint like I had planned on, or embellish it in any way that was going to take away from the integrity of the piece if it truly is like a piece of history. And there was only 2 baskets I found that were remotely like this with this kind of lid, and they were kind of spendy. I mean, around $100, $150. I paid $2 for this basket. So Dale, I made a good profit on your basket. But I just couldn't come to like do anything with this. I didn't want to stain it. It was a little bit lighter than I like, matches my decor. My decor is a little bit more rich tones of wood, but I really, at least for the main part of the basket, the lid I think is about the color I wish the whole basket was, but I didn't want to do anything to this to ruin it. So if you know anything about these baskets, I would love you to give me any information. All I'm doing here is there was a couple of sharp edges to it that I needed to sand down, and then there was some stains kind of on the top part of the basket lid and on the bottom. So I just kind of sanded those a little bit to get them off, just because I wasn't able to get them off with a lot of water. Here you can kind of see I spray it down with a little mist, and I go over it with a towel just to kind of see if I could get some of those stains out. And it worked pretty well, but you can still see them if you look close enough. But again, I just didn't want to do something to ruin this piece. It's got these beautiful, this is real leather that's coming off of the sides there, and that's hinging it together. And then it's just the craftsmanship when I got looking at the basket was just something that was not like mass produced. Like it was definitely something that was indicative of the time period that it was from or something. And it makes me wonder what you would actually have used a basket with a lid like this. I'd never seen a lid quite like this. I've seen other types of lids, but not one with the leather hinges or this straight piece on the basket on the right hand or left hand side there. You can see that piece that where the handle is attached to, and then it's got that little knob to pick. I've never seen that before in these bushel baskets. So please, if you have any information, or if you know where Dale is, let's see if we can get this basket back to him. Or probably somebody just went through his stuff and went, this is garbage, get rid of it. And hopefully we can make a good treasure out of it. I did kind of go over his name a little bit with the water to remove it, but you still can see that it says Dale on there. I thought that was kind of a fun little touch to leave there. So You can see that you can still see his name there. It's a little bit wet, so it might be a little bit hard to see on camera, but you can definitely tell that this basket is Dale's. So since I've moved on from doing actually anything to the basket to ruin the integrity of the piece, I've just decided to embrace it as it is and use it as a decorative element. So I'm taking just a dish towel that I have here, and you guys, this mini heat press, I use it all the time for crafting. I was curious if I would ever even use it, and I use it all the time. So I just kind of ironed out a little dish towel. I put some bags in the bottom of the basket to kind of bring up the base so I could use it, put some things in it, and that way they wouldn't sink all the way to the bottom. So I'm just kind of putting this little towel at an angle here, having the cute corner peek out. I'm putting a little bit of greenery in there. I have this as an old like beginning French book that I inherited from a box of stuff from my grandma's house. I don't know if my grandma ever spoke French or not, but she had this book. It was from 1940 was the copyright date on it. And then I have these little bobbin thread here that I'm going to use that I picked up at another antique store that I have a couple of them. And I thought that kind of tied in that wood color of the basket there as well. And so I just kind of stagger those in there, and I thought that brought in such a fun element with a little bit of the metal on there. And then I felt like it needed a little something between there. So this is just a tag that I picked up at Dollar Tree that I had used a Dollar Tree rub-on transfer, and I just kind of had some script on there that I thought was really fun, and so I stuck that in there. And look at how beautiful this is. I mean, I think this is a great way to use a piece like this that you can leave it, because again, I don't know if this basket is some big piece of history or if it was just something that, you know, who knows, was mass produced at one point or something and is worth nothing, but it's beautiful the way it is. I think if you had a shop or a storefront or something to use something, a piece like this to put some cute little trinkets in would be beautiful. But I think I'm going to have so much fun decorating this for different holidays and different seasons. What do you guys think of this piece? Would you have made the same choice that I made, or would you have just gone ahead and painted it? So did you guys enjoy all of these flips? I had so much fun shopping. It was so fun putting this little challenge on myself, and I found some really great items, and I absolutely love how each of them turned out. They were all so different, but they all will fit perfectly in my home. It's so fun finding items that somebody else has discarded or is done with and turning them into something new, giving them new life and giving them a new purpose and bringing them home and having their story continue. You guys know that I love giving items stories, and thrift flips are no exception to that. So you guys really love this format of video, so give me a thumbs up if you did like this type of video, because I would love to keep doing what you guys are enjoying watching. Remember to check out part 1 if you have not watched that. I will leave a link here at the end of the video so you can easily click on that and hop right over and watch that. If you guys are enjoying this kind of content, remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. That way you'll always be notified whenever I upload. Thank you so much for watching today, you guys. I'll see you next time. Happy crafting! If you like the video that you just saw and you want to keep crafting together, here's another video that you might enjoy. And as always, remember to like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.